there's a war going on, and the war is for the consumer, and to capture the consumer and to keep that consumer in your ecosystem. And so it's going to be a race to, who can, create and build and keep the most relationships.
The Competitive Edge Podcast, where champions aren't just born, they're made. Hosted by Brian Covey, former pro athlete turned high-performance executive and coach who's mastered the art of staying at the top of the game. He'll bring you trailblazers, industry leaders, and game changers from achieving peak performance to building an unstoppable mindset. The Competitive Edge Podcast is your ultimate guide to rise. So ask yourself, are you ready to find your edge?
What's up, everybody, and welcome back to another edition of Finding Your Competitive Edge. So today, I get to bring on one of my friends and somebody not only do I admire and look up to for what they've done in the real estate industry, but how they've actually shown up as a leader. And so we're going to talk about everything from leadership, sales, real estate, things that I know our audience loves today, and where's the market going? How can you be successful in today's ever-changing real estate market, build out a team, and actually work within your genius? So Chris Heller is somebody that we actually got to work together at my previous company, and I've watched him from afar, but gotten to know him as well and seeing how he's adapted in his company over at Ojo, what they've been doing, making sure they equip top real estate teams and agents out there with the tools and the success that they want to have, and making sure that they integrate all that in. So make sure you buckle up today, because we're going to cover a lot of different topics, but I think it's going to be things that you can actually relate to and incorporate into your business. So Chris, welcome to Nashville.
Thank you. It's always fun to be here in Nashville.
So you're here for the conference tomorrow, and yep. You're going to be speaking. So most people now don't know this, but you've written a book, you speak on stages, you've built out like huge real estate teams, like huge, multi millions of dollars sold. Let's give her just a quick little background. I always love to hear what your story is, a little bit of like how you got to here. And I know you're in Nashville, but a little bit about your background.
Yeah, it's a long story, so I'll keep it high level. But I got my real estate license when I was in college. It was going to be a summer job of selling timeshares, which turned into a 3-year stint, and then going to school part-time. Met a residential real estate broker while I was doing that, who for 3 years kept recruiting me, trying to get me to get into real estate, into residential real estate, join his brokerage. You'd be great. He'd send me handwritten notes. He'd call me every time he saw me. And 3 years later, it sort of caught me at a weak moment, and I said, all right, I'll give it a try. And became Rookie of the Year in San Diego, and just never looked back.
Rookie of the Year out of the gate. And you sold, so people that may not know, like I've heard numbers, in your real estate career, how much have you been a part of and sold?
Over 4,000 homes.
That's what I heard.
I was, this was in San Diego where I had my business and still have my real estate team there. And, at the time, San Diego Padres had a Hall of Fame baseball player, Tony Gwynn, who spent his whole career there and was just consistent. And I'm in my mind, I think I'm the Tony Gwynn of real estate. Yeah. And I sold over 100 homes a year and over 200 some years for over 30 years. So it was just a long haul. Along the way, back then, this was before the internet. This was, before. Yeah. So it was just different, and a lot of changes along the way. The concept of teams didn't exist. So, when I hired an assistant at the end of my first year, that was unheard of. I'm in an office with 70 agents, and I'm probably the youngest kid in there. And I hired an assistant. They were looking at me like, who does this guy think he is? And I was looking at them saying like, why you've been stuffing envelopes for the last 4 hours? I'm going to pay someone to do that.
That's right.
But that was just common sense to me. Like, if I want to do more, I need to leverage my time and delegate the things I don't like to do, or I'm not good at, or that they don't produce the revenue. Anyways, I kept going. Fast forward all the way to 2004, I changed companies. After 16 years at one company, changed companies. That was Keller Williams. By 2009, I was the number one Keller Williams agent in their network. 2010, I actually took an executive role, became the president in charge of expanding Keller Williams globally, which was an adventure. Yeah. I didn't know anything about it. They they talked to me in 2008 and said, "Would you be interested in doing this?" I was like, "Yeah,
Sure.
but I didn't know what I was saying yes to, and nor did they, which was kind of good because I just had to figure it out, and whatever I did, they were like, "Okay, if that works, go for it," and it worked. And 5 years later, we're in over 20 different countries around the world, and then I became the CEO of the company. Left there in 2017. Didn't really have a plan what I was going to do, but met the founder of the company where you were working at Loan Depot, and after a half a dozen meetings, he's like, "We got to work together. How are we going to do this?" And so that was a great experience. Learned a lot. As an agent, I've worked with mortgage professionals my whole career, but the year and a half working inside of a mortgage company, I learned more than I had in the previous 25 years about the mortgage industry.
Really?
Yeah, there's just a lot more to it than what agents think or know about.
Yeah.
Especially to have a successful one.
Oh, I'm sure we're going to talk about some of that because those are the questions we all get.
Yeah.
Right? How to partner together. I want to go back because you mentioned something about delegation. You hired an assistant early, and I relate to that. I was one of the first in our office when I was a rookie. I always say first couple of years of mortgage and had a little bit of success. And I go, I can't do all these things myself. I was just working hours and I hired an assistant. What was the roadmap for you to know like what to delegate? And as you look back on that, if somebody's thinking, I need an assistant, maybe like, what were you delegating out?
Early on, there was no roadmap. There was because there wasn't any training. There weren't, again, the pre-internet, right? There wasn't YouTube videos or Zoom or anything else. So it was just common sense. Like I knew that working hard and long wasn't a challenge for me, right? Because I was driven. But that only gets you so far, and there's just only so much time in any given day or week or month or year. So then it's like, okay, how can I do more in the amount of time I'm doing it? Okay, what am I doing? What generates revenue? What takes care of revenue? What can I delegate all the things, all the administrative stuff, so I can spend the majority of my day, the majority of my time just on revenue generating activities. Mm-hmm. So that was just kind of common sense. Like, okay, do I want to be, again, stuffing envelopes or hand dropping off things at homes, or do I want to be face to face with as many buyers and sellers as possible? So I'd hire people to do those other things, and that just kept evolving. As I did more business, I needed more help, and so then it's like, as an agent, showing property is a very time-consuming process. So then I would delegate all the showing, had showing assistants, so I wasn't spending time doing that. Spending my time in front of, focusing on listings and focusing on sellers and doing that. So then, then eventually there were, great trainers, and as soon as I heard that that there was such a thing as a real estate coach and that you could hire one, I hired one. And I've always had one ever since. That was like in 1996, I think I hired that first coach. And so then, then you can, then there's someone to help you with that blueprint with, okay, here's the way to do it, or here's a different way or a better way.
I would love your take on that, because there's a lot of coaches out there today.
Yeah,
in the market,
everyone's a coach.
Everybody's a coach. And so I love this from you, because you've had a coach for all those years and you're doing these things and all that. What should somebody be looking for if they're thinking, okay, I need a coach? I hear you, Chris, like this is good. How do you identify the right coach for you, and what would you be looking for if you're in real estate?
I would be looking, so not in order of importance, but all important. I'd be looking for someone that makes you uncomfortable. Right? So it's not the person you like the best, or you're going to enjoy talking to the most. You want someone that's going to, give you the truth and hold you accountable. And it's just like a trainer in a gym, right? If you want the one, if they're not making you uncomfortable, you're not growing, you're not getting stronger.
That's right.
And so same thing with a coach. You want someone that also has a track record for success, or having successfully helped other people get to where you want to go. So it's like, okay, who else follows them, right? Who else do they do? And then someone that also really has an interest and cares about what you're doing, right? Because you can tell in a conversation when someone doesn't, and you can tell when they do. And then that person, but the biggest issue, Brian, I don't think is, the coach is important, but being coachable is as or more important. are you going to, be the one that's responsible for your outcomes, or are you going to be at the effect or the victim of, that? Well, this coach was no good. Really? Yeah. This trainer, I didn't get any results with this trainer. Really? Did you do what he said to do, or what she said to do every day, all the time? Well, some of the time. Yeah.
That's why you got some of the results.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, we talk about coachability a lot, and you've had a coach for all these seasons. Do you consider yourself a fast implementer, or someone when you're getting coached? I always love this perspective. Like, how do you take that coaching and go and take action?
It's interesting to think about that. So my initial reaction was going to be yes. I make decisions fast. Big decisions I make fast. Small decisions, what to eat, what to wear, take me a long time. But big decisions, in a heartbeat. So if I can see it, if I can really see it, I'm a visual person too, so I need to see it. If I can see it, I understand what it's going to do, I will implement it very fast. When the times that I don't, there's something missing for me. Like there's either I don't see it all, or I don't understand something, or and I recognize that. So then it's on me to get clarity so that I can,
that's right,
make the changes or implement what I need to implement.
Yeah, I had one of those moments the other day. One of my coaches was helping me and is introducing a new technology, which is one of my weaknesses, where it's like introduced a new technology. I'm like, I don't understand. Like, well, what about this? And I just started asking all these questions. He said, well, let me take over and I'll drive from your computer. So basically takes it over and says, we're going to set all this up for you. Because he could recognize, if it were left to me, it wasn't going to get done.
Yeah.
And I just asked for help. I was like, can you help me set this up? Because you could do it in 15 minutes. It probably won't get done if I did it. And so as you're sharing that, I'm just literally thinking back to, I've started to recognize that in myself of there's areas when I get confused or it feels overwhelming, I don't take the action when it's there.
I think it's also, I think there's what your relationship to change also plays a large role in how well you implement or how quickly you implement. A lot of people just don't handle change well. Yeah. They don't like it. They resist it. I've always sort of been the opposite. Like, let's change it. Let's do something different. Yeah. Now, at the same time, there's things that I am very, I have my rituals or my routines that don't change. Like my morning routine has been the same for like 40 years. But when it comes to business and trying new things, I'm all for it.
Let's talk about the morning routine, because I remember you mentioning this before, and you've shared this. Walk people through a little bit, because this gets thrown out on social media all the time. People that are up at 4, and then everybody's also, I do this cold plunge, and I do this. Right. What does your routine look like? Because I actually remember you sharing this with us once before.
Yeah, so it's been different at different stages of my life. There's when my kids were young, getting my workout in meant I had to do it before I got them up for school. Right, so that was getting up at 4:30, being at the gym from 5 to 6, coming home, me getting ready and then getting them up. Yeah. So that was the routine for 10 or 15 years. Now it's similar. It's just not as early because the kids are gone.
Don't have to go that early. Yeah.
But still stretch, workout every morning. There's things I do just to get my mind clear, whether it's reading, whether it's, certain things. I'm really big on preparing the night before. The last thing I do every night is just look at my schedule for the following day, look at every meeting, every appointment. Am I ready? Do I have what I need? I don't want to do it the day of. I want it all done the day before. And that way you can start the day and you know where you're going and you're off and running.
I love that one. My wife will joke with me sometimes. I'll review in the calendar at night and just making sure the next day, like, do I know what I have? Are there things that need to adjust or move? And that one tip, I hope people don't miss that.
Yeah.
Because I didn't do that for a while, and I would wake up the next day and it was like fast and the furious of like, well, what do I have? Let me do this. And then I'm reacting and text and emails and that one little thing. If somebody doesn't do that today, are there things when you look at your schedule, I'd love, like, how do you optimize to make sure that next day is set up for success?
Yeah. So there's a couple components. One is having a schedule, right? If you don't have a schedule, especially if you're in any sort of sales, if you don't have a schedule that you can follow, that by following will allow you to accomplish all the things you need to accomplish, then you're reactionary all day long. You're a pinball in a pinball machine. You're going to end up where you end up. So the schedule is the structure that puts all the things in there that you need to do so that you can be successful that day, that week, that month. The challenge is not so much creating a schedule or having a schedule. The challenge is following it. Right? Mm-hmm. That's so then it's creating the discipline to stick to it, to do the things you need to do, even when you're being pulled in other directions or you don't want to.
Yeah.
In one of my early, and so I created a lot of games or just triggers in my mind to build that discipline, build that strong mindset. So one of them was that I don't listen to my wants and don't wants. Mm-hmm. And I write about this in the book. So, let's say it's my lead generation time. So every morning do my lead generation, then my lead follow-up. I'm human. There's days where I don't want to do it, days when I didn't want to do it, days where I go, I don't want to do this. I don't want to make another call. I don't want to talk to another person. Besides that, I'm an introvert. I don't really like talking to people anyway. So, but I had, this is the career I'm in. Or days where I go, I want to be fishing, or I want to be golfing, or I want to be at the beach. And so as soon as that want or don't want came up, the next voice in my head was, I don't listen to my wants and don't wants. Mm. I do the things I need to do to stick to my schedule to accomplish my goals, because if I don't, I'm going to be pissed.
I love that.
And it's just building that discipline and that habit around it too. Yeah. It's like, it's like brushing your teeth in the morning or working out in the morning. Once you get in the habit of it, if you don't do it, it's really uncomfortable, mm-hmm. right? And so once you build the discipline to do it long enough to create the habit, then it just starts to become part of what you do and who you are.
Yeah. Hey guys, it's Brian here. I hope you are enjoying the show. By the way, if you're an entrepreneur or a solopreneur looking to grow your personal brand, make a bigger impact, maybe increase your leads and grow your revenue, let's help you get started today by connecting up with my friends over at the Brand Builders Group. You've heard me talk about them, but if you're new here, this is definitely the first step to get you started in turning your reputation into revenue. Head over to freebrandcall.com/Brian Covey. Again, to set up your free brand call, go to freebrandcall.com/Brian Covey to set up a free strategy call with one of the team at Brand Builders, and they will dive into your specific goals for how you want to grow your personal brand. I can't wait to hear how it goes. Yeah, I love that you've got those. There was a coach years ago, I remember talking about replacing and using language, like powerful language like that. Like once you start to think this, and you talk about standards over feelings. Yeah. And some of us have heard that, and it's like, oh, there are standards that we have. And when you have those conversations with yourself, can you flip that switch to go there?
That's a big thing that doesn't get talked enough and now, and that is having standards. Mm-hmm. Having standards for yourself, having standards for your business, having standards for how you operate, having standards for what you do and don't do. I'll talk to people about that now, and they'll look at me like, what do you mean? Yeah. Like, what are you talking about? It's like, well, I have standards for, what I'm going to allow, who I'm going to spend time with. Yes. Or what I'm going to be doing, or what information I'm going to let into my head, because there's things I know that mess me up that I'm going to keep the negative stuff away, and I'm going to be replacing it with positive stuff. Cause there's so much negative out there that's kind of the default setting. So, but having standards for that.
Talk to us about some of the standards you've set, because I love that you use this too, because I found it like high performers, they have standards.
Yeah. Boy, there's so many different areas. Like, for who I spend time with, right? Mm-hmm. I have no tolerance for negativity. Yeah. Whether and integrity, right? So if there's anyone who's out of integrity that's their business. I'm not going to judge, but they're not going to be around me.
That's right.
So those are just, like personal standards for my schedule. Like, hey, I do what I say I'm going to do. Right. And that's, when I got into real estate as a brand new agent, after about a month, I had 2 realizations. And this is just from watching, the 70 or 80 agents in the office.
Yeah.
Number one, if I did what I said I was going to do, I'd be head and shoulders above most agents. And number 2, if I told the truth, I'd be head and shoulders amongst most of the agents. And it's not that I saw everyone lying, but I saw people afraid to tell consumers the truth.
Yeah.
I saw people afraid to tell the seller, hey, your house smells. We need to do something about this if we're going to sell it. Hey, the collection of turtles that you have all over your house is cute, but we need to take all those out if we're going to sell your house, right? And so just tell the truth, and then do what you say you're going to do. If you tell someone you're going to call them back, you call them back. If you're going to be there at a certain time, you be there at a certain time.
Yeah.
And those aren't big things, but a lot of people struggle just doing those things. But they became standards, for me.
I love those when you share those, and they'll resonate with people. What I found is not everybody holds those standards that you might have, and I had to find that out the hard way, especially building teams. And I definitely want to talk to you about this. Is because what you'll find is not everybody has those. Yeah. And I had to realize not everybody thinks like I do, and they're wanting a different environment. I couldn't provide that environment for them because they wanted wild, wild west craziness. I'm like, I'm not running a circus. As you were building teams, how did you take your standards and some of those things and then attract and build out? Because you built some pretty big teams, especially when you're CEO at Keller, massive.
So early in my career, I struggled because I think I just thought everyone should be like me.
Yeah.
Right? Like everyone should be driven and focused and why do they need a pat on the back? Like that's the job. That's what you're supposed to be doing. Yeah. Right? So, which made me a poor leader and a poor manager. For some reason, I've always attracted good people and talented people, and even early in my career, I did, but I didn't lead them well, and they'd often leave. So then it was the realization: okay, I have to. I'm the common denominator here. Right? That I got to actually become a leader.
Yeah.
Right. And then I worked and still work really hard at that because it's not natural.
Yeah.
And so building a good team starts with the person in the mirror, right? That's you have to be really good. There's some basic philosophies I believe in. You have to walk the talk, right? You can't do what I say, not as I do. Does not work with in any situation, kids or business. That's or anything else. You got to be willing to do anything that you're asking someone else to do, or have done it or do it well. I think the other thing that's really important is hiring talented people. Now you can teach people how to do things, right? You can teach them what to say and all those things. But if someone has talent and desire, those are two things that, make it a lot easier and a lot better. It helps you build better teams. I mean, look at every championship team in sports. What do they have in common? They probably have the most talent. And they have the desire, and they play as a team. Yeah. And so those are some things. Playing as a team. I always look for people that are team players, right? Because I have a team, and I'm building a team. There's been lots of examples in sports, especially as free agency came into play. You see these teams, take these superstars and try to plug them in, and they don't win championships, because the team never became a team. They had talent, they had superstars, all pros and all stars, but they weren't a team. And the team that wins the championship every year, like the Dodgers will this year, are the ones that really are a team and play as a team. Yeah. And so trying to find people that are team players, and how do you do that? It's like, I would always ask people as a kid, did you play sports? And then I'd find out what kind. did they play individual sports or did they play team sports?
Yeah.
Because at least if they play team sports, I know they're accustomed to that.
That's right.
And then, some people like accomplishing and winning as a team more than they do individually, and trying to find those people.
I love those because it's soccer background. I found with people, especially if they were even a captain or unique positions on the field, you're right, like you can pull from that and they've had past experience that's there. I would love to get your take on this, like looking into the future, teams in real estate. I got to know your perspective of like, I sense these teams are changing. You see new brokerages opening up. There's a lot of shift. I mean, I'm watching, it's like mortgage musical chairs. We see it in real estate. People are moving. Where do you think that's going in the industry with teams and based on some of the things that happen with NAR and like, what's the future look like for?
Yeah, look, I think teams aren't going away in real estate. I think they'll continue to grow. There's a dynamic happening now that profitability is a challenge, and you either have to be really big or really small. There's this area in the middle where it takes a lot of infrastructure and a lot of admin to have a team, and if you aren't big enough to just be driving the volume, it's hard to be profitable because margins are getting crushed and commissions are coming down. So it's I think we're going to see more large teams and then some small, really thin, efficient, effective teams. The ones in the middle are going to have to figure out one or the other.
Is there a volume size or transaction you're saying for those groups, or is it vary?
It's really varies by market, because you have different price points and
sure.
There's always this dynamic in so I'm from Southern California, and even back as far as I could see, a top team or agent in California might be 100, 200, 300 transactions. You go to other parts of the country where the price point's a lot lower, you'll see teams doing 700, 800, 1,500 transactions. You don't see that in those high-priced areas. And they don't, there's something there that caused that. I don't know if it's because if you sell 100 or 200 homes, you're making a lot of money and with an average sales price of $900,000.
Sure.
Whereas if your average sales price is $300,000, you got to do 3 times as many. And we usually see that happen.
That's right.
So now it'd be really hard for me to put a number on it, whether it's the number of transactions or the volume. It's profitability is the issue.
That's what you're watching.
Yeah.
Same for mortgage. We're watching it right now.
Yeah.
And you're seeing these companies put up these big numbers, and then behind the scenes in these kind of, I call them cooler talk conversations we're all having, you're trying to be like, all this volume, but what they paid to get it and what they're paying to service it and what they're paying the people to, like you said, all this infrastructure, they're looking at the end of the day and they're like, we're actually not making a profit.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the goal of business, right?
That's right.
It's profit. It's not number one. It's not, the most, it's the profit. And for years, like, that was my focus. That was always my focus. I was never the number one agent in San Diego, but I probably had the highest profit of any agent in San Diego, because that's what I cared about.
It's a lot more in the conversation lately as we're talking,
Yeah.
Which is good. Let's shift over. We talked about it earlier, mentioned a little bit about the real estate mortgage partnership. And I know you're kind of in the thick of some of that today, and I think going forward, this has to evolve and continue. What do you see working, and then what do you see maybe coming up?
Yeah, most of the large companies out there, there's a war going on, and the war is for the consumer, and to capture the consumer and to keep that consumer in your ecosystem. Way back when, it used to be the agent was sort of the center of that. Like the agent was the one that made all the connections.
Yeah.
But that changed. It changed, a long time ago with portals and everything else. And now mortgage companies going, well, wait a minute, why we can't be at the mercy of someone else? Yes, we're going to go out and build relationships with agents and teams, but we can't live and die off what someone else does. So everyone's trying to control, that consumer journey and that customer journey and the customer acquisition part. And that horse is like out of the barn. That's going to keep going. And so it's going to be a race to, who can, create and build and keep the most relationships. And it's not a good or bad thing. It's just sort of how things evolved. And part of it, a lot of it's probably driven by technology. As technology evolves, it impacts human behavior and consumer behavior. And then businesses have to adapt to that or keep up with it or stay ahead of it if they want to be successful. You think about, some people refer to it as the Amazon effect, where, you want things, really quick, really easy, really transparently, and that you come to expect that. If I have to go onto a website to buy something and I have to put in all my information, it's like a hassle. Right? It's like, hey, they don't have my payment information, they have my address, they have my, and we're so so accustomed to, not having to do that when we go to Amazon that we have to do it somewhere else. It's like, hey, what's going on? I don't like this. Right? So, that's a consumer behavior, a consumer expectation. And then as, agents, teams, mortgage professionals, how do we keep up with or exceed those expectations? And that's the key. One of the ways you do that is you be the one that's delivering what they want. So if a seller today wants optionality, they want to know what a cash offer would look like, or could they buy before they sell, or those things. There's companies out there they'll do that for them, provide them that information, provide them the vehicle to do that. But the agent should be the one, delivering those options, or the mortgage professional should be the one saying, hey, all right, in your situation, you have a couple different options. Let's talk about those. And that's, I think, an important thing. So this turf war, this war for the consumer is going to just, keep going. And it's not like I said, it's not a bad thing. It's just how the world's working. And you have to figure out, okay, what's your role in that, and where's opportunities, and where can you thrive?
Yeah, and we're watching it because there's people crossing over and doing mortgage and real estate, and you're seeing people partner up, like not just the old traditional joint ventures, MSAs and all that, but you're seeing all of this. Yeah. Have you seen any of that? Is that growing, you think, where you're going to have...
I think there's a lot of time, energy being put into that. There's some evidence of it growing. You look at Zillow with Zillow Home Loans.
And watching that.
Yeah, and what they're doing with their flex teams. A year ago, it was something that was talked about. Now, a year later, it's something that's happening. And when you talk to those teams, you say, okay, well, how's that working? They say, wow, it was really rough a year ago, but now it's working really well, right? And so they're figuring it out. And and then you have large companies like Rocket and Rocket Homes, or what we were doing at Loan Depot with Mellow Homes. If it's not easy. It's like, from the outside, it looks like it would be easy and seems like a natural thing to do, and why wouldn't you do this? It's super hard to execute on. But people are going to keep trying, because that's sort of the end game you want to get to, is be able to have those relationships, control those relationships, and monetize as many parts of them as possible.
And the person can figure it out. As you said, like a lot of people are a year realizing it gets easier, but who can stay in the game long enough and
look, and eventually, consumers that have experienced that will start to then expect that, right? It's like people who have bought and sold cars with like Carvana or CarMax, like where it's just like super easy. Here's what I want, here's what I got, it all happens, right? It's hard for them to go back to, the normal way of selling a car themselves, or, going to a dealership and negotiating all that. That's where things will move. It doesn't mean it'll move there overnight. It doesn't mean it'll happen overnight. It won't. But that's the direction things are going.
Yeah, I'm excited for it. We're all just watching what other people are doing, and how do we make sure we're part of the game there. And to your point, still building relationships, but we can't ignore the technology, and consumers are saying they want the seamlessness and almost Amazon.
Yeah, but it's still it's still a relationship business. I actually think it's more important than ever before, because it's not like having a relationship used to suffice. It used to be good enough, right? Because you had a relationship when they needed to refinance or needed a new loan or wanted to buy a new home. You had that relationship. They would call you. Now that same consumer that you have a relationship with is being inundated with offers from everywhere, from their bank, from their servicer, from platforms, from companies that have a product, and all that noise and distractions causes them to say, well, I'll check this out. And so over time, your relationships will get fewer and fewer unless you're constantly working to deepen them. Right? So, maintaining a relationship used to be good enough. It's not anymore. You have to be working on that relationship and deepening that relationship all the time to maintain it.
And that seems to be where people are struggling today. Like, we get asked that all the time. Is like, if you're going to go out and you're going after a big team, like the Heller team, like that you have, or like when you've worked there, are there things that you would say for mortgage professionals they should be looking at and going, okay, I've identified this team, rock star team. How do they deepen that, add value? People use that word kind of loosely. But what would they be doing today, you think?
Yeah. They know that adding value is the key, but they don't know what that means or how to do it. So a couple of things. Like years ago, like 2000, 2001, there was a large, dominant mortgage company called Countrywide Mortgage. Remember? They used to fly me around and talk to their loan officers about how to approach top agents and how to get into business with top agents. And I'd always ask this room of loan officers whenever I was speaking to them this question, like, as a top agent, how many times a week do you think I get approached? And they're like 10 times a day. I'd be like, almost never. I almost never got approached because they all just assumed I had my person, or they knew I had my person, so they didn't bother. They thought, well, he's never going to change. He's never going to give me an opportunity. Oh, that's a missed opportunity right there. So number one is don't not try to get, if you have an opportunity to talk to someone, a top team, do it. Fine. And it's not about, I think a lot of loan officers would think, okay, I have to figure out how to win them over. No. You have to figure out what's important to them. You have to figure out what you could do that would be helpful to them. You have to figure out what they value and what you could do to provide value. So it's just being able to learn about someone, learn about their business, and say, gosh, not to take anything away from your current relationships, but if I could help you with this source of lead, or this source of buyer, or this source of seller, is that something that we could work together on? Most agents' teams are going to go, I'm all ears.
That's right.
So it's and that's where value. When people say provide value, that is value, right? Yeah. It's, as an agent or a team owner, what do I care about? I care about listing and selling more homes, and so anything that you can do that'll help me do that. And it may not be the actual consumers that you're bringing me. It may be a tool, a product, a strategy, an idea, something you've learned at a conference, or something you learned from one of your other teams, or from one of your colleagues, and say, hey, have you ever thought about this?
I love that. That's right. I think people miss the boat. Is every team is different, and I found the same. It's funny you say that too, because there's some teams I know here that are friends of mine, and the same is true today. They're like, no one approaches us. Yeah. And I'm like, but you sell a lot of homes. Like, I see your marketing everywhere. Yeah. I would think they were inundated, but it's a good reminder to everybody listening is you might think that person is locked down, they have their preferred lender, and they're set. It's
human nature. People, the art of sales isn't, I think is perceived differently. There's, it never bothered me to go after someone. It never bothered me to call for sale by. It never bothered me to be calling expired listings or cold calling or anything else. It bothers a lot of people to do that. Well, if they want to talk to me, they'd call me. Or, I'm going to come across as a pushy salesperson. You are a salesperson.
Yeah.
Now, pushy is going to be in your approach. Do you have
That's
a professional, skill-based approach, or are you a hack and you're, just, pestering people?
Yeah.
But it is, it is a funny thing. It makes me always wonder, like, wait a minute, why? Yeah, I had an early coach and mentor who we used to talk about rejection. He said, agents don't do this because of the fear of rejection. He said, what's ironic is if they have kids, they get rejected all day long, every day by their kids. Yeah. If they have a spouse or partner, they get rejected by them all the time. People they love and care about reject them. They don't give it a second thought. Mm-hmm. A total stranger who they've never met before, may never see again, rejects them, and it takes them out of the game for 2 days.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're ruined.
Isn't that funny how that happens?
Yeah.
I mean, we all face that. When you frame it that way, it gets me even to think, like, some of those people, look, some are going to work with you and some are just not. Like,
yeah.
and that's okay. Like, what are they going to go say?
It's not personal.
Hey,
even if it feels personal because they lash out at you or they don't respond, it's not personal.
Yeah.
You're not that important to them.
Yeah.
I used to tell the agents all that time, you're not as important as you think you are.
Yeah.
They aren't thinking about you. You're thinking about them because that's what you do, right? They're a lead you're following up on. You're thinking about them all the time.
Yeah.
They're not thinking about you at all.
No.
Yeah, they got their whole life going on.
After they reject you, they just moved on to the next thing.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, that was just easy. I moved on.
Yeah. People used to hang up on me. I'd call them back and say, hey, sorry, we got cut off. Yeah.
I love that.
And it'll be like, because I wasn't like, hey, they hung up. I'm not going to let that stop me.
That's right. I remember a sales coach actually teaching us that. He's like, if they hang up on you or something, he goes, just call them right back and say, hey, we must have gotten disconnected.
Yeah.
In a sincere way.
Yeah.
And I found go ahead.
I was going to say, sorry, I must have said the wrong thing. Can I start over? Yeah, just take a human approach to it.
Yeah. And they'll laugh or they'll go, no, I was hanging up on you. That's either way.
All right, well, before you hang up again,
Yeah.
let me just ask you a question.
Get them moving. And I love, too, as you were sharing that, I think about, too, we tell our team a lot, is if your intentions are to help problem solve, listen, and serve somebody, you'll get more responses.
You'll get more responses, and it makes it easier to make those calls and do those things. Mm-hmm. Like I knew in every cell of my body that if someone wasn't doing business with me and they ended up doing business with someone else, they wouldn't be as well off. That they wouldn't, they'd either end up with someone who wasn't going to work as hard or that wasn't going to be as diligent as I was or wasn't going to be as focused as I was on making sure that every T was crossed and every I was dotted, or that they, that things were negotiated to their fullest, or those things. And so I developed that belief. And so when you have that belief, it's hard to let someone go because they're going to be worse off for it. Mm-hmm. And if you care at all about people, that bothers you.
Big time. We share that a lot with recruiting because it's got a negative connotation and everything. Like, if you believe, and I believe that, if you work with us, you're going to be better off than you work somewhere else. Like once we've identified and gone through the model match and the fit, then you're fighting for them. Yeah. You're not letting them go somewhere else, because what I know is then they're going to go somewhere else.
And they're going to go somewhere else. And they're going to pay the price, and they're going to waste a year or 6 months, and then they very well may come back, but there's a cost to that.
That's right. Yeah, and sometimes you just got to fight for them as they go through. I always love to ask this: is there anything you're reading right now or studying, like in your own personal growth and your development journey?
I'm always reading and studying. It's part of what I do in the mornings and at night. There's a lot of things happening with technology and artificial intelligence, and I've been just reading a lot about that, like trying to really, I understand how the technology works, but thinking about the consequences and unintended consequences, and what will be created, and where the opportunities will be. So that's one thing. I never stop reading about leadership. An article pops up, Harvard Business Review article on the 3 traits that top leaders have. I'm gonna open that and read it. Right? Yeah. It's like, because it's some of it's reminders and some of it's new thoughts or concepts. So those are things I'm always looking at. I'm never satisfied with where I'm at. I always want to be better. I know I can be better at any and everything that I do. So any opportunity to do that makes me feel like I'm being productive. It makes me feel like I'm moving in the right direction.
I've always found that with high performers. Like, even just listening, I know what you've accomplished, and people that have listened now, they know too. And it's like, that's always something that's just ingredient almost to success, is they're just not satisfied with, well, I know I can do more. I can be better. I can be better. And hopefully people listen to that. I've seen that seduced by success almost. A lot of people got successful and then let it go. What keeps you driven to keep wanting to do more?
Oh, I think about that a lot. I get asked that a lot. Sometimes my wife asks me that. I have different answers at different times.
Yeah.
One of the things that keeps me going is I like to win.
Yeah.
Winning is fun, and so unless you're competing, unless you're being challenged, you can't. There's no opportunity to win. So I like to do that. I like to challenge myself. I'm very competitive. As I look at your sign that says "Find Your Competitive Edge," not so much with other people, but with myself and with what I can accomplish. And then there's just the financial piece, right? Like there's things I want and things I want to be able to do that require me to go figure out how to make the money to do it. 3 days ago, my agent in Montana called me and said, I got an opportunity, but you got to decide on it now, by tonight. It was off market, under contract. They're pulling out. They can assign the deal. And I was like, yes, I want that. Done. Now I have no idea how I'm going to come up with the money. I'm working on it, but it's the things like that drive me to go. Okay, I want to. I don't want to be. I want to have the money. I don't want to figure out how I'm going to get the money. So there's that piece of it, and that piece really is driven more by not money. It's more by freedom, like the feeling of freedom, the feeling of being able to do what you want and not be constrained. And so those are the things that keep me going.
I love it. I relate to those. That's what my wife and I talk about a lot too. Is just like with the kids being their age, like we just want to be able to go take a vacation. We want to go take it. Like go travel on the soccer trips. We want to travel them and not worry about the things. I'm like, it's not the money has to get you there. Yeah. But it's like you just want to be able to say yes and go.
Yeah.
All that. Wow. So what have I not asked you that maybe I should have? As you're prepping for, I know tomorrow you're gonna be speaking. You're speaking on stages before the end of the year. What's on your mind?
So tomorrow I'm speaking. So in the last year and a half, we have made to real estate teams. We've made 182,000 introductions, and those introductions, those calls were recorded. And so what I'm speaking tomorrow on is what we've learned from listening to 182,000 recorded phone calls with agents. So that's what the topic is tomorrow. That'll be a whole nother segment.
Oh, that would be.
Yeah. But what did you not ask me? Yeah, there's I don't know if it's a question. I'll just make a comment, and that is now more than ever, the recipe for what it takes to be successful is out there. Right? There's shows like yours. There's no shortage of content and blueprints and game plans and on how to do it. It's just really deciding you want to do it, and then I think narrowing the focus. I think nowadays it's too easy to be pulled in a lot of different directions, to be distracted by a lot of things, to think you have to be doing a lot of things. And I think I'm still a strong believer in mastering one or two things before you add the third thing or the fourth thing. And those are for anyone who's wants to be more successful than they are or achieve more than they have been achieving. I think those are some universal truths.
Oh, it's great wisdom. That's a great way to wrap too. Those are truths that I wish I had known sooner. I literally had a conversation today with a 33-year-old I was telling you about earlier, and we were having this, and it was a kind of breakthrough for him. It's like, I realized I just need to eliminate some things. He said, I've been saying yes to so much, and I don't even have space for what I need to. And so we just reverse engineered it. Like, what do we need to say yes? What do we say no? And that's it. Yeah. That's the golden ticket.
Hey, one of the things I do every night when I look at my schedule the next day is see which things I can cancel.
I learned that a couple years ago. Massive.
Yeah.
Massive. I wish I had learned that sooner because things got on my schedule I didn't say yes to.
Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, squad, this has been an amazing show. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed the time with Chris as much as I have. And we could have gone a lot of different directions, but I thought this would be a value for you. As you listen back, what I would love for you is just to take notes and almost an inventory of where you are. And I always think about there are different things we covered and they resonated with you, and you know where you are in your journey you need to implement, whether it was the habits in the morning routine, whether it was the things at the end we talked about that you need to say yes to and no to, going through your schedule and making sure you prioritize that. Whatever you're doing along your leadership journey, I believe we're all called to be leaders, different capacities within that, but make sure you're leading yourself well and then lead others. One way you can do that, share the podcast, make sure you like, subscribe, give it out to your friends. If you run a team, I always say the best thing you can do is when you find a show like this and it's impacted you, share it with your team, share it with other people. That's how we get the word out to more. So you heard Chris's competitive edge several times come through. You could tell he's a competitor. He loves to compete. That's why we do the show, is I want to bring that out in everybody that listens. So I believe we all have that little bit of competitive edge in us. We just need to unlock that and then go use that in the service of others. So until we talk on the next episode, guys, go out there, do something great, be a blessing, and we'll see you on the next episode. Cheers.